Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello. Welcome again to another great day. I was pondering on what I was going to talk about today and looking at my list of stuff. And we were talking about myofascial tissue, and then we were talking about other stuff. But a really important thing is, I think, is barefoot shoes or walking barefoot. It's really helped my ankle. I know I said it hasn't healed completely, but it really has made a big difference in my ankle. My ankle always used to feel like it was gonna fall over, like I always wanted to twist it, right? It didn't have that stability. And now it does. After a few years of wearing barefoot shoes, it's made a big difference. And sandals. I bought some zero shoe sandals. They're really cool, ultra light. Just enough protection to keep your foot from getting cut open, but you feel every nook and cranny and rock and everything underneath. It makes a huge difference. The barefoot shoes I bought are Lems. I've owned now 2 pairs. They last a really long time. I know that there's Vivo, there's Zero Shoes, there's a bunch of name brands out there, and there's more and more coming out all the time. They're amazing, right? They let your toes splay out. They strengthen the arch instead of weakening it. I read this book, Born to Run, 1 and 2. So 1 is the book about running and how these guys from Mexico run barefoot, and they run through the mountains and rocks, and they make these sandals. I guess they're not totally barefoot, right? They make these sandals out of old tires, and that's what they run in. And I remember when I was young too, there's a lot of Africans that would do sprinting and running in the Olympics, and they always trained barefoot, right? They would only wear the shoes in the Olympics, really, and that's just, I think, just to please their sponsors. They really didn't like them. What I noticed too, when I was working in the Okanagan on construction sites, is there was a lot of people from Mexico there, lots of guys, and they would always walk on their toes. Their heel would touch, but barely, right? But they were on the ball of their foot all the time. And that's the way we're supposed to be. The only reason we heel strike with our foot is because we have these big, soft shoes on. So anyone out there that wants to get healthy and wants their body to function in a correct way should really try the barefoot shoes and walking barefoot a lot. Like I said in previous videos, I would garden barefoot, right? I would be completely barefoot in the garden, and you're also getting grounded to the earth, right? So it really helps the body to be grounded. It takes all that built up electricity that's built up, especially in our society now. We're surrounded by all these 5G and 4G and this Wi-Fi and all this stuff that goes on, and studies have shown with earthing.ca or whatever, that it gets stuck in your body, right? And it builds up, and it can keep you from having a good sleep. It can keep your mind racing. It can negatively affect you in a lot of ways. So just by standing barefoot in the ground, especially when it's a little moist, right? It really connects you to the earth, and all that energy comes out of you, goes into the earth. And then there's other studies too that say that you actually gain some helpful energy from the earth that helps you heal. So there's a lot of evidence that shows, and I learned most of it from this earthing video on YouTube, but then I actually tried it, right? I bought this stuff and I hooked myself up and I grounded myself to the earth and I slept and I slept like a baby. It was great. I still do it once in a while. I don't do it all the time because I'm just not set up all the time to do it, right? But when I can, I do. A friend of mine, Pete, he snores like a son of a gun, like just wakes up the earth. And I'm sure he has like sleep apnea. He's not a big guy or anything. He's in good shape, it seems, but he does have that snoring, loud, bad snoring. And his girlfriend said that when he grounded himself, like it was the first time that she had a full night's sleep because he was quiet. And it made such a huge difference that she forces him to do it, like because otherwise he snores and wakes her up. It's these things are free or cheap at least, but free if you just walk in the backyard barefoot. If you don't have big sleep apnea or anything like that, they sell sheets. They do all kinds of stuff for the grounding. They sell all kinds of barefoot shoes. And once your foot is strong, right, and then your ankle is strong because that's connected, and then your knee gets stronger because now you're on a stable foundation, right? When I was reading that book about Born to Run, they had right in there that the guy that invented Nikes regretted doing it because he was weakening people's feet and he knew it. And they all know it. All those big companies know that that's what they're doing. It's like putting a cast on your arm. I broke my arm when I was young, and I had a cast on there for months because it just took a while to heal. It was a big break. And I remember how weak my arm was when I took that cast off. It took me a while to get the strength back in there. And so that's basically what we're doing when we're putting those big, comfy, soft, bouncy shoes on, right? We're putting a cast on our feet every day. And then we wonder why our arches fall and why our feet are weak and why we don't have stability, especially as we age, right? Your body can compensate more when you're younger. But as soon as you age, or as you age into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it can't compensate like it did. Right? A, we start losing a bunch of muscle mass. B, we get dehydrated because we don't drink water. I watch it when I'm at the old folks' place or where I'm with elderly people. They drink coffee and tea and pop, but getting a glass of water in them is almost impossible. It's very strange to me, but that's what they do. And they don't want to lift weights. They don't think it's important. They don't think that exercise is important. But yet they're falling down, breaking hip and dying. Right? They're worried about walking outside. They got canes and walkers and all this stuff when a little bit of strength exercises and walking barefoot, maybe grounding themselves would change a lot of that, right? It would change their whole lives, but they don't do that. It's one thing I'm trying to work on with. That's why I go to the old folks' homes. I try to talk to them and get them interested, right? We have a walking club here in town, and it's for that. It's for them to get them out, mobile. Like, let's go, right? If you're worried about falling and then there's no one there to help you, well, now you got a group of us. And if there's something goes wrong, we can phone or we can pick you up and carry you or whatever we have to do. So really try to the barefoot, right? Like, I know it sounds weird and don't just go overboard, right? You got to break it, get your foot used to that because it's so not used to walking in barefoot shoes. It took me probably a good 6 months before I could walk all day, every day in my barefoot shoes, right? But now that's all I wear. That's all, unless I'm at work and I have to put my steel toe boots on. But when I work for myself like I am, I just don't. I just wear the barefoot shoes, right? I have my old pair of barefoot Lems, and I have my new pair, and that's what I wear. I ground as much as possible, right? When I can hook up my cord and get myself grounded at night when I'm sleeping, I do that. I walk barefoot in the backyard all the time, even in the winter. Like it was -20, and I would go stand out in the snow barefoot and just be grounded to the earth, you know, for a few minutes here and there during the day when I was at home, right? Just to get that grounding in. And it makes a huge difference, right? All these little things add up. They're things that the medical system does not want you to know or do. They want you to think it's foolish, right? They invented the word quack, and the medical system wants you to think that these things are crazy. Meanwhile, our ancestors were barefoot all the time, or they had a pair of leather on, right? And then their foot would sweat, and through the leather, they would ground themselves to the earth all the time when they were walking. And you don't even have to look that far back. If you look back at, say, in the 50s and 40s, before Nike invented the running shoe in the 70s, right? 60s, 70s, everyone wore leather-soled shoes. And when you sweat and there's a little bit of moisture in the ground, now you have that contact, right? And you have that grounding. So it's not even that far back that we were grounded to the earth a lot of the day. And since they invented the rubber-soled shoes, now we're not, right? And I like rubber-soled shoes because, you know, they're durable and they got good grip. And, you know, leather bottom shoes, like I have some cowboy boots that are leather and they're slippery as hell in the winter. So I really like the rubber-soled cowboy boots that I have. I hardly wear them now because, again, they squish your foot, and I'm trying to let my foot get stronger and heal. You know, what are they called? Podiatrists, they sell those orthotics. I mean, they're a god awful amount of money, you know, $600, $900. And they're not helping your foot. They're not strengthening the arch, right? They're just, again, they're just a better cast, right? They're pushing the arch up. They're holding everything up so you don't have as much foot pain, but they're not strengthening the arch. They're not strengthening the muscles of the foot. So they're doing the opposite of what you actually want. Now, a lot of people make a lot of money off them, right? And it's the same thing with the Nikes and the shoes. They know their shoes are not good for your foot long term, right? They know that. There's study after study after study that they just ignore because it's a big money-making machine, you know. And if they admit that they've been damaging your foot all these years, like, are you ever going to trust them again? So Reebok and Nike and Adidas and all these guys, they have to stick with it. They can't quit, right? Because you're probably never going to come back to their shoe if you find out that they've been damaging your foot all these years, right? Find out they're lying to you, right? So yeah, I can understand why they're not, right? And in the book, that's exactly what they said. The guy that created the Nikes went to the board that runs Nike back in the early 90s or 80s or whatever, when after he figured out what he was doing, how wrong it was. It took him a while, right? A decade or so to figure it out. And he said, well, we got to change this. Like, this isn't right, you know? And they said, whoa. We all make a lot of money. You make a lot of money through this. So we're not stopping nothing, right? The people they won't know. We'll just hide these studies, right? you know, something else to think about, you guys, when you're thinking about your health, every aspect matters, especially if you're thinking about running, or you're really getting into the gym after you heal from these other things, and you want to really do good with your body. You really have to think about that, because if you're not strengthening your feet, right, you're weakening the rest of you. You're not as stable. And stability is number one, right? Especially as you age. Stability is number one. Mobility, stability, strength. Those are massive things. We'll talk more about strength training in future videos. It's extremely important too. But I really wanted to touch on the barefoot shoes and the grounding today, right? They're both super important, and they're both do a lot for us. I remember when I first got my barefoot shoes, it felt so weird, right? And my right foot, it's not doing so well. It was like, it did not like those shoes, right? It just did not like the shoes. And then I wore them a little bit every day, a little bit every day, a little bit more, a little bit more. And like I said, after about 6 months, I was wearing them every day. And the right foot doesn't mind them at all. It's happier now. Now, like I said, the myofascial tissue is still sticking some stuff together, and I need to get that broken up and fixed up. But the foot itself is a lot stronger, and I don't ever feel like I want to twist my ankle like I was before. Right? It didn't matter what I was wearing. As soon as I would put too much thought into that side, or too much weight on that side, or anything like that, or I'd be on an angle of any kind, the foot wanted to twist, the ankle wanted to twist, and it doesn't do that anymore. So right there, I know that it's made a big difference, because my foot wanted to twist, or my ankle wanted to twist like that for 20 years, maybe more, right? Probably since the initial damage that I did when I twisted it. It's never been the same since. But the barefoot shoes sure help. With that, I'm going to just leave it as a quick video today. I hope everyone's having a great day, man. I was working on my roof and cleaning up the yard and doing some stuff today. Again, it's supposed to rain and be crappy, and like this spring is just, it's really getting to me. I just don't like this, right? I really want to move to a nice, warm, sunny place, because I'm really sick of this, and this isn't even normal for Manitoba. This is not normal for Manitoba. Usually, we get some rainy days in the spring, but most of the time it's pretty sunny and nice, and you know, people are putting in their gardens already and stuff, and I don't see anyone doing that. You know, I saw a few people working them up with the tiller and stuff. But no one's really putting no one's putting their tomatoes out, that's for sure, right? Or any of the nightshades. Yeah. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever you wish. Comment, man, ask questions. Thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.